Welcome to Concept with Justin. When it comes to designing the perfect front yard, the foundation of any beautiful design lies in the thoughtful balance of nature's elements. A well-designed front yard doesn't just enhance curb appeal, it creates a welcoming atmosphere, a visual story that begins before visitors even step through your door. Imagine stepping out of your house and being greeted by a vibrant, harmonious mixture of colors, textures, and shapes that reflect both your personality and the seasons themselves. Let's start with the basics, the lawn. A lush, green lawn serves as the canvas for your landscape masterpiece. A healthy lawn provides not just aesthetic value but also a soothing environment. To achieve that deep green, velvety texture, you'll want to invest in proper lawn care. Regular mowing, fertilizing, and watering are essential, but consider going a step further by incorporating eco-friendly practices. instance, planting native grass species not only ensures the lawn thrives in your climate but also reduces the need for heavy maintenance and excessive water usage. Now, imagine layering your lawn with flower beds that follow its natural contours. Curved flower beds, in particular, add a sense of movement and fluidity, guiding the eye gently across the yard. The key is to design these beds with a mix of flowers and plants that bloom throughout the year. For example, spring can bring bursts of color with tulips, daffodils, and hyacinths, while summer welcomes the vibrancy of lilies, petunias, and daisies. As autumn approaches, chrysanthemums and asters can take center stage, and in winter, evergreen shrubs ensure your garden never feels barren. When choosing flowers, think beyond just color. Texture and height are equally important in creating a dynamic and engaging landscape. Plants like ornamental grasses or hollyhocks can create dramatic backdrops, while shorter blooms like marigolds or pansies add layers of interest in the foreground. Mixing perennials and annuals ensures a blend of consistency and variety, with perennials providing a reliable foundation year after year and annuals adding a fresh pop of color each season. Incorporating greenery into your front yard design is equally crucial. Trees, shrubs, and hedges provide structure and balance, framing the flower beds and creating a sense of enclosure. Small ornamental trees like Japanese maples or flowering dogwoods can serve as focal points, drawing attention to specific areas of the yard. Shrubs such as boxwoods or hydrangeas can act as natural borders, defining spaces while adding depth and texture. One often overlooked but transformative element of front yard landscaping is the use of pathways. winding stone or brick pathway through your flower beds not only provides access but also adds a sense of charm and whimsy. Combining pathways with low-maintenance ground covers like creeping thyme or Irish moss offers a soft, inviting feel, blending functionality with natural beauty. Imagine walking this path each morning, surrounded by the gentle fragrance of flowers and the rustling of leaves in the breeze. Another way to elevate your front yard is by incorporating vertical elements. Trellises and arbors covered in climbing roses, jasmine, or clematis create a romantic, almost storybook-like atmosphere. These structures can also serve as visual connectors between different parts of your yard, guiding the eye upward and adding height to the overall design. To make your front yard feel more personal, consider adding decorative elements like sculptures, bird baths, or even a small water feature. bubbling fountain or a koi pond can serve as a peaceful focal point, creating a sense of tranquility amidst the vibrant colors of your flower beds. These features also attract birds and pollinators, adding life and movement to your garden. Speaking of pollinators, designing a pollinator-friendly yard is not only beneficial for the environment, but also brings an enchanting vibrancy to your space. Planting flowers like lavender, sunflowers, and zinnias can attract bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds, turning your yard into a lively, buzzing haven. Providing a mix of nectar-rich blooms ensures these creatures have food sources throughout the year. Let's take a step further and imagine how seasonal themes can add an enchanting charm to your front yard. In spring, pastel-colored flowers like tulips and daffodils can evoke a sense of renewal and freshness. Adding decorative Easter-themed ornaments or pastel-painted pots can enhance the seasonal ambience. Autumn offers the opportunity to incorporate pumpkins, hay bales, and orange-hued mums for a warm, harvest-inspired look. Seasonal accents like these not only make your yard visually appealing but also create an emotional connection with passers-by. For those seeking a more sustainable approach, xeriscaping offers an innovative way to reduce water consumption while maintaining beauty. Xeriscaping involves selecting drought-tolerant plants like succulents, cacti, or lavender, which thrive with minimal watering. Incorporating gravel, pebbles, or mulch as ground cover not only enhances the aesthetic but also helps retain soil moisture. This design is particularly ideal for areas with dry climates, or those looking to reduce their environmental footprint. For a more naturalistic approach, consider a cottage garden style. This design embraces a seemingly wild, overgrown look, with flowers like foxgloves, delphiniums, and daisies spilling over pathways and beds. Pairing these with rustic elements like wooden fences, stone borders, or vintage watering cans can create a nostalgic, storybook-like feel. Edging your flower beds with unique materials can also add character to your front yard. Instead of traditional stone or brick borders, consider using recycled materials like wine bottles, repurposed wood, or even old metal piping. These creative touches not only set your yard apart, but also promote sustainability by giving new life to discarded items. Another emerging trend in front yard design is the incorporation of edible plants. Blending herbs, vegetables, and fruiting plants with ornamental flowers creates a functional and beautiful garden. Imagine a border of basil and rosemary beside your flower beds, or a small apple tree standing proudly among your shrubs. The mix of edible and decorative plants not only provides fresh, homegrown produce but also adds layers of interest and practicality to your yard. If space permits, creating a small seating area in the front yard can make the space more interactive and inviting. A simple bench nestled among flower beds or a pair of chairs under a tree can turn your yard into a cozy retreat. Designing a front yard landscape is not just about aesthetics. It's about creating an environment that feels like an extension of your personality and lifestyle. While we've explored the foundational concepts of flower beds, trees, and lawns, there's so much more to consider when crafting a front yard that feels truly unique. Let's delve deeper into advanced landscaping techniques, sustainable practices, and creative ideas that elevate your outdoor space from beautiful to breathtaking. One of the most overlooked aspects of front yard landscaping is the importance of focal points. Without a focal point, even the most vibrant flower beds and lush lawns can feel disorganized or overwhelming to the eye. draws attention, anchors the design, and creates a sense of purpose. This could be a large ornamental tree like a Japanese maple, a striking sculpture, or a water feature such as a fountain. For a more understated approach, a simple bird bath surrounded by a carefully arranged ring of seasonal flowers can also serve as an elegant centerpiece. When selecting a focal point, consider how it interacts with the rest of your design. For example, a large flowering tree positioned near the center of your yard could be surrounded by concentric flower beds that mirror its circular canopy. Or, a tall trellis covered in cascading roses could act as both a visual centerpiece and a vertical divider, subtly separating your yard into distinct zones. A professional-looking front yard often incorporates layers of plants that create depth and dimension. This technique involves arranging plants by height, with taller plants at the back and shorter ones at the front. But layering isn't just about height, it's also about texture, color, and bloom time. By carefully selecting plants with varying leaf shapes, colors, and sizes, you can create a landscape that feels dynamic and alive. For example, imagine a flower bed where the back layer consists of tall, feathery ornamental grasses like maiden grass or pampas grass. In front of that, you could plant medium-height perennials like black-eyed Susans or coneflowers, which provide vibrant color and attract pollinators. The front layer might feature low-growing ground covers like creeping phlox or alyssum, which spill gracefully over the edges of the flower bed, softening the transition between the plants and the lawn. Another way to add layers is by incorporating plants with unique foliage. Think about the contrast between the silvery, delicate leaves of lavender and the broad, glossy green of hostas. Or the dramatic pairing of burgundy-hued heuchera with the soft, fern-like texture of astilbes. These contrasts create visual intrigue even when your flowers aren't in bloom. Hardscaping elements, such as patios, pathways, and retaining walls, play a crucial role in the overall design of a front yard. These features provide structure, define spaces, and enhance the functionality of your landscape. When designing hardscaping, think about how it complements the natural elements in your yard. Natural stone pavers, brick pathways, or gravel walkways can add texture and charm while blending seamlessly with the surrounding greenery. For a more contemporary look, consider large, geometric concrete slabs interspersed with low-maintenance ground covers like creeping thyme. Not everyone has a sprawling front yard to work with, but that doesn't mean you can't create a stunning landscape. For smaller spaces, the key is to make every square foot count. Vertical gardening is a fantastic solution for limited areas. Wall-mounted planters, hanging baskets, and trellises covered in climbing plants can transform a small yard into a lush, layered oasis. Another beautiful approach, especially suitable for patios, porches, or yards where in-ground planting isn't feasible or desired, is focusing on creating a gentle and beautiful front yard landscape using potted flowers. This method offers flexibility and control, allowing you to curate specific looks and easily change arrangements with the seasons. Think about grouping pots of varying sizes and complementary colors near your entrance or along pathways. Choose elegant containers, perhaps terracotta, ceramic, or stone, and fill them with softer floral choices or plants with delicate textures. The beauty here lies in the intentional placement and the contained elegance of each pot, contributing to a welcoming yet refined atmosphere without needing extensive garden beds. This container gardening strategy is particularly effective for urban homes with no lawn space. Large pots filled with a mix of flowers, ornamental grasses, and shrubs can be arranged along pathways, on steps, or flanking your front door. Choose containers in varying sizes and materials to add visual interest and complement the architecture of your home. In spring, early bloomers like crocuses, daffodils, and tulips can bring a burst of color after a long winter, perfect for pots too. For summer, focus on vibrant, heat-tolerant flowers like zinnias, lantanas, and salvias. Autumn is the time to showcase rich, warm tones with chrysanthemums, asters, and ornamental grasses that turn golden as the weather cools. Finally, winter can be made magical with evergreen shrubs, holly bushes with bright red berries, and even ornamental trees like paperbark maples, whose peeling bark adds texture and interest. enhance the seasonal effect, consider incorporating decorative accents that change with the time of year. For example, lanterns or string lights can add a cozy glow during winter, while colorful pots or garden flags can brighten up your yard in summer. Thank you for spending time with us today on Concept with Justin. If you found these ideas inspiring, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with friends who love landscaping and design. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest content. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, happy designing, and thank you for watching.